Over the course of history, man has been able to use the world's resources to develop and grow on a multitude of levels. But did you know that humanity uses more resources than the Earth provides? And that at this point, humanity's footprint now exceeds the planet's regenerative capacity by 50%. The growing greed of capitalist corporations outweighs their feelings towards the depletion of the world's ecosystem. This deficiency continues to tarnish our environment structure. The concept of the ecological footprint attempts to put a number on the amount of ecological space occupied and used by people and by nations. Emphasizing the importance of the country's ecological footprint puts into perspective the damages that the capitalist corporations are generating on a global and local scale. Around 4 to 6 hectares of land are used to maintain the consumption of the average person in the West. The total available productive land, however, in the world is about 1.7 hectares per person. This means that if everyone lived like those in the West do now, then we would require nearly 3 planet Earths just to sustain our lifestyles. The importance of this concept branches to all nations. The text goes on to speak about the consumption across several continents, and we see a sharp contrast in the numbers provided. The text shows that the average Indian has an ecological footprint of just 0.8 hectares, while an average American has one of 9.7 hectares. Although text fails to give you a means for a comparison of what average truly is, the sharp contrast helps to illustrate the gross overconsumption by individuals in the West. Being born and raised within Canada and having spent some time within India, I can speak for both sides and for the variation in lifestyle and values that contributes to these numbers. Beginning with Canada, one takes for granted the facilities available to use, such as the limited running water within our homes, our heated and cooled buildings in all the seasons, and the availability of foods from across the world within our supermarkets. Taking these for granted, wasting such, is something we don't think twice about. How many times have you bought more than you can use and thrown the excess away? It is this type of mindset that has led to the same gross overconsumption. Crossing over to India, the unavailability of the same resources leads individuals to be more mindful of what they have and what they need, and use the resources accordingly. Although their initial objective may not be to save the environment, the product of their lower consumption is something the West could look after. Furthermore, the effects of globalization take effect as the world continues this growth and development. Corruption. Corporations are continuously looking for new ways to increase profit. This correlates with the deterioration of our natural resources. Globalization puts pressure on the environment by accelerating the industries that require extraction of natural resources from the earth, with these levels depleting. If we look at Brazil, it's one of the Earth's most ecologically important nations. The growth of the country's beef industry has caused environmental destruction, and over the past 40 years, about 1/5 of the Brazil jungle is razed. The expansion of this industry threatens now 40% of the world's remaining rainforest. Contrary to what seems to be the belief of these corporations that endless exponential growth is actually impossible in a world of finite resources and ecological limits that we live in. We will eventually hit our cap and no longer be able to live the lifestyles we currently do. In a world fueled by greed, it seems that the cost is not paid by the consumer but by the environment. I feel as the text seems to over-exaggerate the complexities of the issue on a local scale. It focuses on the corporations are doing, but fails to address the micro-issues within the household, within the people themselves. It's almost as the cultural values have made waste and overconsumption so much of a norm that no one seems to turn an eye to it. If the governments of the world paid more attention to controlling and subsidizing their ecological footprint, this could lead to betterment for future generations. As rising populations, we see a rise in demand for energy, for food, and raw materials, which needs to be met at some point. As the capitalist corporations continue to grow and expand their reach across the world, the importance of each country's ecological footprint grows to protect the environment for current and future generations to come.